Good morning once again. Today is lesson or unit number 54 of midsummer noon in the Australian forest. You can see the terminology used here. Summer, midsummer. You can imagine the time, whether it is hot, cold, or something like that. And it's the summer and noon also, midday. Noon and location, you can see the context setting, Australian forest. Maybe you have imagined something in your mind. Summer is its hot season, and within a day also, noon is the hottest part of the day, and forest is somehow cool in the forest. These issues are here. You can imagine the hot, the hot day, on the hot day, what or how we feel. See the author, Charles Harper. He was born in 18. You can see the other things simply in this poem. He has depicted the pictures of Australian forest and the movement or the silence especially prevalent in that forest. Okay, see the theme? In this poem, there are 5 stanzas, and this poem deals with quietness and beauty. You get the terms he used here, quietness and beauty. Among the hardship means hot day or hot summer day. The alienated aspect of colonial Australian land. Australia, you know that it was colonized. Still, Queen of England is the head of state in Australia till up to now, right? So it talks about forest of Australia, how organic, how beautiful, or how virgin the land is. It's quiet and it's beautiful. And here, the hardship, summer or midday or noon, right? Or within the forest, these words symbolize hardship. It's difficult in hot summer. And to be in the forest is also somehow, it shows some sort of difficulties, hardship. Forest means, as you know that, somehow difficulties. So it somehow shows the influence, colonial influence, and the problem faced by the people of Australia. That can be one interpretation, but this is romantic poet. If we go through the stanzas, they simply talk about how beautiful, how cool, how quiet the land is, the forest is at that particular time. It means there is some difficult word, glossary. Bidab, smear, potinu, that means in Nepali. Bidab. Drowning is like humming of bee, humming sound, you can say. Drowning. Heap, to lift or drag. Heap. Musing, you can say musing means thinking simply, being thoughtful. Noontide, you can say midday, and generally a type of breeze can be felt at the time, so it's somehow symbolizes that, but noontide means midday. Repose, rest or sleep. We feel sleepy at midday. So it's depends resplendently, brilliantly with color, or as you can say attractive, resplendently. Shard, shard means especially broken piece of glasses or pot. Lucas means grasshopper. You can say Sola. You have recently heard this term. Uh, you can see the picture on top of this slide also. Lucas, grasshopper. Or Sola, patengra. Slumberous, feel sleepy. There are some words, right, in this poem, many words, like repons, for example, music, for example, right, and slumberous. It shows that people feel somehow lazy at that particular point of time or at midday. That means yawn means it's another use of over there. Tawny is a somehow like brown and yellow. Tawny. Reel means small river or rivulets, you can say. Bower is a shadow simply, or small patches of shadow. Rest is resting. You can see in the pictures also. The travelers rest simply. Vermeil. Vermeil can be equated with jalap, right? Here is mentioned silver gilt, refer to high quality, pure or sterling silver that is plated within a thin layer of gold. So golden also silvery golden, you can say. And ripple, so web. Ripple is web. So these words are used in this poem. If you need any Nepali version, let me know, I'll tell you. Bidab, drowning, eve, music, music, noontide, repons, resplendently, sard, lucast, slumberous, yawn, tawny, reel, mower, resist, vermeil, and ripple. If you can find other difficult word also, if you find, please go through the dictionary or listen me. I'll let you know while reading this poem also. It's a very long poem. As I said, it's a picturesque descriptions of Australian forest at midday, around 12 o'clock. You can remember, Chait Baishak, right? Very hot, and rarely, especially in Tarai area, right? I have seen that. Rarely people come out of their house. They remain inside because it is very hot. Or you can imagine the situation. A person at the time in a forest. So the same situation has been painted here. The poet has painted the idea over here in the form of words. But it's not a negative thought, negative perception. It is positive perception, right? As I said earlier also, beauty lies in the eyes of beholder, right? Midday also is beautiful. Early morning is also beautiful. We have recently studied words composed upon the Westminster Bridge. The poem was set early in the morning. But this poem talks about midday, noon. And the poet, that means William Wordsworth, was upon the Westminster Bridge. Here Harper, he's in the forest, Australian forest. The setting is different. But the perception, Wordsworth saw beauty of London city, and Harper saw the beauty of Australian forest. And both are romantic poet. As I said, if you feel the beauty of nature, you are romantic. Here also, the Harper feels the same thing. He feels the beauty of Australian forest. But personally, I think that jungle, gardens, right? Vegetable content, right? Are more beautiful than landscape in my opinion. But all all types of natural phenomena, they are equally beautiful. To perceive, to realize, to feel that beauty, we need a type of thinking, contemplation, right? We need to have eyes, that means to perceive beauty. So this poem or this poet also simply talks about the same idea. How beautiful the Australian forest was when he was there at midday, right? And he has portrayed how it was beautiful also. That's why let's go through the poem. See the first stanza. Maybe you got the idea, main idea. That is the thing. See the capital word here. Not a sound disturb the ear. There is quiet everywhere. Over plains and over woods, what a mighty stillness broods. See the situation, context. No sound. There was no sound at all in the forest. It was midday. It was quiet, that means. And over the plain area, and over the woods, in that jungle also. That means there was mighty, very big stillness, silence was living. Broads means here, living, existing. So over the plain also and over the woods also, there was no any sound. It was quiet. It was still. There was too much silence, that means, in the forest at midday. The next, even the grasshopper keep where the coolest shadow sleep. Even the busy ants are found resting in their pebble mound. Even the locust clings now in silence to the barky bough, and over hills and over plains, quite vast and slumberous rain. See here, grasshopper, where it was hiding in cool shadow. It was sleeping in cool shadow because it was very hot then at the time because it was summer, and not only summer, it was midday as well. That's why grasshopper, they were clinging, right? Or they were sleeping in the cool shadow, you can say this way, calm shadow. And busy ants also, you can see the ants moving here and there most of the time. But what time, midday, they are also in their pebble mound. Pebble, made of a pebble. Mound means the house of ant. You can say colony. You might have heard of colony, right? House of ant, right? It's called colony. So ants were also resting in their pebble mound, means their house. Moving. There was no movement of ants. Even the Lucas clings now in silence to Barkibo. And see the Lucas, grasshopper, or Salah, what we call. It was also clinging, hanging. Where? Silence to the Barkibo. Bo means branch, right? They were clinging. See? Bark, 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 bark of the bow branch. They were clinging there. They are not moving because of these endeavor of those animals, even breeze. Situation of the place was over the hill and over the plain. There was quiet and vast and slumberous rain. Rain. Rain means ruling. What was ruling there? Silence was ruling. Sleepy. Time was ruling. Slumberous here. Ruling. It means there was total silence. No grasshopper, no locust were moving. Because of this ruling thing at that particular place was quietness. The quiet was very vast. It means there was total or complete silence in the forest as these creatures were not moving. The next one. Only there is a drowsy humming from the young warm lagoon shows coming. Dragon, hornet, sea, all bedaubed resplendently, with yellow on a tawny ground. Each rich spot, nor square nor round, but rudely heart-shaped as it were. What is mentioned here? But humming, humming of what? Dragon. There is only a drowsy humming from a over this. Yon means over, warm lagoon, slow coming. Humming of lagoon. A lagoon means is a small part of flowing part of river or sea. It's called lagoon. Small branch of river, sub branch of river you can say lagoon. From that part of river, drowsy, sleepy humming, right? Nindra lagdo, it means drowsy humming could be heard. That means not only that, in that lagoon, lagoon is you can say so you can compare with puddle also, a small pool of water, lake of water, the bank of river or sea also. So there was another also that drowsy humming was of dragon hornet. Right? You know, hornet means oringal, right? Is a family of that. There was humming of hornet also. See, all bedaubed resplendently. It was covered, smeared. That means bedaubed means splendidly means beautifully. It means the hornet, dragon hornet. We can say bachu. We say bachu or oringal is a family of that, right? Dragon hornet is bachu in our Nepali generally. So it was covered, smeared, केले पोतिएको थियो, पोतिएको debugged, beautifully, resplendently. It means it was with a yellow downy ground. Downy, you can see yellow, yellow also, right? And brown, brown also. Downy means. So that insect, dragon hornet, was beautiful in that color, brown yellow color. That means with yellow and downy ground, each spot, nor square nor round. Right? So that place was rich with those type of thing. That means scene also. Every place it was rich. Each rich spot nor square nor round, right? But it was heart shape. The place, especially that lagoon, was maybe in heart shape. मैले अघि भनेको छु lagoon भनेको चाहिँ समुद्रको छेउमा खास गरी चाहिँ पानी जमेर बस्ने एरिया हो, right? पानी खासै मुभमेन्टमा हुँदैन, but you can hear a type of sound when wind breathes, and there was dragon hornet, right? So it was there, the place where there was pool of water was in heart shape, as it were the blurred and hasty impress there of a vermeil crested seal, right? Dusted over with a golden meal, one dawning, where dawn bright betel gleams the air, and gleams it in its dawning flight with a slanting rocks of light. Still rising the sunrise, sunshine higher, it's start flame out like gems on fire. See, in the same place, maybe in that lagoon, there was a seal also. You know, seal is sea animal, right? Blur and hasty impress there, right? It was not clear, it was blur because of sunlight in the midday, at the midday, that means. So, over the vermeil crusted seal, the color of seal, right? Vermeil crusted. What can be the vermeil? I have shown you, right? Vermeil means crushed. It's like silvery seal. Over, dusted over the golden meal. It was with golden meal over there, and it was covered with dust also. Only there is a drowning where yon bright beetle cleans the air, right? Beetle could be seen. It was drowning over there, right? Only there is a drowning, the humming of what? Beetles, bright beetles in the air, right? It could be at the time. Some birds, they were flying, but it was also blurred. That means there were not so many beetles. Also. Beetles is also a type of insect, right? You know that. Glimpse it in its dawning flight with a slanting track of light. It was a dense forest, slow, so only slanting light could be seen. At that time, in this situation, the beetles were flying there. That means some insect, it means they were flying. Still rising in the sunshine higher, it started flame out like gems in fire. What happens? Gems in fire, it shine, it glitters. Similarly, because of only some rays in the forest, the maybe the wings of dragonfly, especially here beetles, it was shining like gems in the forest as they were flying, they were dawning. It means so the flying of beetles also was making the forest beautiful because the poet could see them flying, and because of some rays in the forest, the wings of that, maybe the body of that beetles were shining. So the poet feels the situation, the condition, the context of the text was beautiful. See the next one, next stanza. Only explanation, right? All this stanza, they simply explain how beautiful was the situation of the forest and what was making that beautiful, or how beautiful the forest was. See what does it talk over here? Every other thing is still, right? Only what were moving over there, that is lagoon or dragon in lagoon, it was moving, right? Similarly, seal, it was simply, hardly it was moving, seal was there, that sea animal, right? Next one is beetle, they were drowning, they were moving, flying, but every other thing is still. Save the ever wakeful reel also, whose cool murmur while it throws a cooler comfort and round repose. Look at here. Another sound could be heard over there was sound murmur of reel, small river. Other sound could not be heard except I explained earlier. So everything is still save the ever wakeful reel. River is always wakeful. It keeps on moving. So reel means river, small river, rivulets you can say. It was wakeful, whose cool murmur only throws a cooler comfort round repose. Right? It's a resting place. It was moving, right? It was going to a resting place maybe. Repose, look at it, a cooler comfort round the repose, or in that place where the poet was resting, you could hear the wakeful sound of reel, that means. Or some ripples in the sea of leafy bow where lazily trim summer in her bower, turning with a noontide hour, heaves a slumberous breath as sea once more slumbers peacefully, right? Other, some seas, some ripples in the seas, some, or leafy boughs where late tide summer, or in harbors, turning with a noontide hour, heaves a slumberous breath, or sea, more slumberous peacefully. Everything in the sea, right? And the leafy bough also, at the noontime, they were slumberous peacefully, or it was resting. Everything was resting. That means, so it's a easeful here to lie. As everything was peaceful, there was no sound, no disturbance, and it was slumberous times also, and even ear was slumberous there. It's easeful to lie, hidden from noon's scorching eye. As I said, it's a noon time, and scorching eye means very hot rays of sun. So easeful to lie here, to sleep, to rest. At the time in the forest was easeful, comfortable. That means, so to hide from noontime, very hot sun. That means scorching eye. In this grassy, cool recess, musing thus of quietness. Right. Finally, the poet says that as it is noontime, as it is very hot outside, and it is really quiet and beautiful. That's why he says this grassy cool recess means resting place, traveler's rest, you can say, or resting place simply. It is very beautiful, very what? He was lucky to rest in the shadow. How to rest there? Musing thus of quietness, right? Thinking about, contemplating of that quiet environment of midsummer Australian forest. It means it was a really perfect place to live, to rest, thinking about or realizing the complete silence of that natural Australian forest at the time. If otherwise, or if you would go outside, it was really difficult to go because it was very hot. The sun was scorching, so it was difficult. But the situation, the context of the forest was really romantic, really beautiful, really cool, really silent. That's why he wanted to rest in this forest at midday of summer because of his complete quietness and the comfort he could realize. This is the whole summary. Once again, let's talk about summary. Do not be confused with the thing mentioned over here. The first stanza, the poet simply says, how quiet was that plain and woods jungle. And in the second stanza, he gives some example of grasshopper, example of ants, as they were living peacefully in their respective houses. Similarly, in the third stanza, he talks about lagoon, water pool nearby, sea or river. He could not feel anything except sound from lagoon itself and the humming sounds of dragon hornet. And the hornet was also really beautiful for him. And that lagoon was of heart shape. That also attracted him. Similarly, in the next, the poet says he sees seal, sea animal there. Similarly, he sees beetles, seal moving over here and there lazily, and beetles humming here and there and glittering in the sunlight also. So it made him somehow attracted toward the scene. It made him fascinated. It means the movement of seal and the movement of beetle, especially the movement of or the flying scene of beetle was just like gems on fire, really attractive, really interesting impression. That means, and finally, in the final stanza, he talks about the real small river. Maybe nearby sea there is small part of river. This can be. So it was wakeful, and you know that we believe that music, it was originated from the sounds of birds and animal in the forest and the flowing of river. That's why here he hears the sound of wakeful river. And maybe it was going to rest in the sea. It was going to be mixed in the sea. But everything at this noon time, for example, birds, animal, human being, couldn't be heard. Everything was slumberous, feeling lazy, maybe feeling tired also because of scorching sun. So he thought at that time to rest in the shadow of Australian forest was the perfect thing to do. And think about the quietness of forest also, because he was poet and he could not live without thinking. That's why he says to live in the forest, thinking about Australian forest in that quietness or perceiving the real beauty of that forest was the perfect thing for him to do at that particular time. In this way, you can summarize this poem. And as I said, you can write summary. I have presented here. Summary like analysis. And you can go through this it's yourself and it will help you. Right? Is there any question? You can dusted over with golden meal. Dust means, you know, dust, dhulu, right? The seal was with its food, and its body was covered with dust, right? And its meal was golden. It means, it generally says that the seal, that animal, sea animal, was there. Seal animals lives in water also, right? And outside water also. Or you can see on the part of snow also. And his food was of golden color. It means because of sunlight, right? Might be the food of that animal was golden. That means it was having food lazily. That means that is the thing. If you have any other question, you can ask me. I'm going to show you the next page also. You can screenshot and line by line interpretation is given. Okay, your interpretation also I'll show you. Look it here. It might be here somewhere. It's not there. So some difficult term. For example, look at the first line, first bullet point over here. In the first stanza, the poet sets the tone through the personification of landscape. Means considering land as a person. How does he consider? Look at here. What a mighty stillness birds, right? The place was what? Very big and still. And mighty word it can be used for generally human being, right? Very big. With simultaneously giving a description of some of his surrounding. The exclamation marks at the end of the first line gives a feelings of the poet amazement at being in such a peaceful place. As I showed you, get the first stanza here. Not a sound disturb the air, right? You can imagine the condition when there is not a single sound, really peaceful, right? And there is a quiet everywhere. That is the same thing. And where was quiet? Over the plains and over the woods, right? Everywhere, nearby the jungle also, and outside also. Like a very big person lying on it. That means what a mighty stillness broods, right? You can see the birds, right? Especially hen, right? Sitting for hatchery. There's a brooding. Brooding is like that, without moving, no movement at all. That means. So the place, Australian forest, and the area, plain area nearby it was very vast, very big, mighty. That means, and it was really in silence. No sound, no movement of people, right? No birds, right? Birds hasn't been mentioned here. Only insect, right? Human beings also, it hasn't been mentioned there, right? Only the movement of some grasshopper, hornet, and seal, right? And beetles are mentioned here. So at the time in the forest, only some small creature, special insect, except that seal, could be seen, right? You may know the color of seal. You have seen in television, right? Or male crested seal, right? Golden color, silvery golden, right? It's very. It was like that color of that color. That means, and it was with what food also. When it comes out from the water, because of water in its body, what happens? It is covered with the dust, and it has some meal, and it looks golden in color. It is only perception of the author, right? Not any other thing. So you go through the analysis yourself. You pause or take a screenshot, and if you have any question, this is the second page. Only 2 pages are there. Page 1 and page 2 of this analysis. You can see a person lying right on the beach. Do you have any question, please? If you have any, let me know. I'll try to solve this.